Islam titled Spearheading Your Career in Banking. Our speaker of the day is Bank Islam's Chief Strategy Officer, Noor Farila Abdullah, and she carries with her a wealth of experience in the banking industry, working with many household names in Malaysia. And she is excited to be sharing her insights today. So before I pass the floor to her, I'd like to urge everyone to visit Bank Islam's virtual booth here at the Australia Career Fair to discover the different opportunities available. I'd also like to urge everyone to explore the different features in this exclusive career initiative. And don't forget to follow Grad1 on social media at Grad1. Keep forgetting right there. And also do follow Bank Islam on social media at Go Beyond at Bank Islam. So now I'll be passing the virtual floor to Puan Farila Abdullah to begin her session. To the crowd, don't forget to keep sending in your questions and we'll be addressing them at the end of the session. So Puan Farila, all yours.
Thank you, Wafi, for the nice introduction. Assalamualaikum and a very good afternoon to everyone. I didn't realize that this is your third webinar. I hope you've had a break in between, had your refreshments and did a bio break and everything. I'm excited to speak to you today. And what I understand is that this is the topic that you want to hear. So before I go into the topic, let me introduce a little bit about Bank Islam and also a little bit about myself. I mean, so that, you know, the topic doesn't become so dry. I am the Chief Strategy Officer of Bank Islam. Bank Islam is a 4,500 size human capital bank. So we've got 4,500 personnel, human capital. We have more than 50 systems and applications. And we also have a few bots that manage and automate our processes. It's a mid-sized bank, and analysts like us for our ROE, return on equity, that's a measure of profitability, and our asset quality. We outperform industry in the asset quality side, as well as that we hold the mantle of the leadership of Islamic finance, not just in the country, not just in Malaysia, but worldwide. So that's about Bank Islam. A little bit about myself, my own career trajectory. I started my career right after I graduated with a consulting company, Accenture. And then after about, I think it was 7-8 years, I moved to a bank, and it was during the time of mergers. So in Malaysia, that was probably the last merger that happened in the country. After the bank, I moved into a payments company. You may have heard it. It's Touch 'n Go. Almost 3 years ago, I joined Bank Islam. I became a chief financial officer of this small company, of this payments company, when I was 36, COO when I was 38, and chief strategy officer when I was 43. So the first company that I joined built my foundation, exposed me to excellent leadership, and actually created a thirst for challenges, because in a consulting company, how we did our work was by projects. So I was in a project, you know, not more than, at any one time, not more than 2 years. My second company actually allowed me to go deep on certain subject matters, and also gave me the front seat, a first-hand experience on managing conflicts and managing stakeholders, and also how to execute. And that's because we were in a merger integration project, and that requires high pace, high speed. The third company that I was in is actually where I cut my teeth in running an organization with profit and loss and critical operations responsibilities and HR matters and organizational KPIs. So that gave me the breadth of how to manage an organization. And so the fourth company that I'm with right now, Bank Islam, is where I bring to bear the best and the worst of my experience. And it's so far also the best organization in terms of challenges. It gives me exposures in different ways. But suffice to say, I am still learning. There's never a stop to learning. And so today, I also hope to learn from you from the questions that you will pose to me later in the session. Okay, so let's get right into this. if we can go to the next slide. So let me start with asking the question of what is actually banking to you? The most common answer that I would typically get is from the perspective of a customer, right? Because every one of us is a customer of a bank. So it's a bank is where I deposit my money, where my, in your case, where my scholarship goes to, where my parents transfer my allowance. I then use the money to pay for my needs like clothes, food, books, entertainment. I mainly use electronic channels because most of my shopping is probably online, e-commerce. I use my debit card that I just wave. And in Malaysia, there's also QR code. I'm not sure about Australia. And occasionally now, I withdraw cash from the ATM machine, but that's really very, very seldom now because I can use my Wave card as well as my QR code. Some of you may also have a credit card, maybe a supplementary. So you'll probably get a call from your parents if your parents see a transaction that they don't understand. So your needs as an individual, as a customer, will grow as you go through the different phases of life. So after studying, after your undergraduate or postgraduate, you may get into employment. And now your bank account will receive your salary. And also it becomes payback time, right? Either you have to pay your sponsors or you have to now contribute to the family, to your parents. Then as you grow further, progress further, you may want to buy a car, you may want to buy a house. So this is also when your credit relationship with the bank starts. Or you could take a different trajectory. You could decide to start your own business after you graduated. Maybe a continuation of a business that you have already started at university. For the entrepreneurs, your needs are different. You need your bank account now is important for you to reconcile your revenue and your cash flow, as well as to make payments to your supply chain and to receive payments from your customers. And then as you grow your business, you need to manage your cash flow, and at a certain point, you need to finance your working capital or finance your capital expenditure. Maybe you are in the business of manufacturing. So you need to build a new factory or you need to buy new machines and you need financing for that. So that's from the perspective of customers, be it individual, be it businesses, be it corporation. The banking industry from the regulator perspective, from the policymaker's perspective, is that banks are actually an instrument of monetary policy. And it's used as levers for inflation, for liquidity that will promote growth. What I mean by liquidity is that when banks give financing to businesses, that is promoting the growth of the business, promoting the output of the country. So therefore, the financial system stability is of the utmost importance to a country. So I think that's just, something, I don't think there's anything new there. But essentially banks play the intermediary role, right? Matching the funding excess that is coming from customers who do deposits of their funds, and financing other customers like businesses, individuals, corporations from the liquidity that exists. Okay, next. So 2021, what is the outlook of the banking in 2021? It has been a very challenging time for banks. I think suffice to say that when the economy does well, the banks do well. When the economy doesn't do well, the banks suffer too. So, but fortunately, banks in Malaysia are in a position of strength. When we were shocked into the pandemic and into the lockdown. So therefore, we are able to continue to play that intermediary role effectively. In fact, do more to help. And so this is, via the moratorium. You might have heard of the moratorium that was offered, as well as target repayment assistance. All right, so the evolution of banking technology. Now, I don't know if any of you were ever in a state where there are no internet banking or mobile banking, but there was a time when there was only branches. So the only way that you can interact with a bank is by going to the branches and by using the ATM. No such thing as internet banking, no such thing as mobile app. Then obviously it has evolved, and I think even during your time, you won't remember a time when there was only the branches and the ATM. So the ATMs also, it started with just a machine that you could withdraw cash. Then it evolved into being able to also transfer funds, being able to pay bills, and also able to deposit cash. So that you don't have to rely on going to the counter. And then came telebanking. So at about 1997, 1998, telebanking became very popular, such that there were banks that were set up without any branches, but just with telebanking. It didn't last very long because some of these banks in the UK, there was a bank called First Direct who didn't have any branches. So the way you interact with the bank is only via their call center. It didn't last very long, probably a good 3 to 4 years before they all merged with physical brick and mortar banks. And then the net banking and the mobile banking, obviously you are, very, very well versed with this and use it. And then the next one is the SMAC, is the social media, the cloud, the analytics component of the banks. So at this juncture, technology is a key component of the bank. So even when we were at branches and ATM, what connected all of this is actually technology, right? So from probably the first bank had only one branch, but you need to connect. You need to have network connectivity. You need to have a unified system to be able to connect all of these branches. So Bank Islam today has 143 branches. And obviously, even if you open an account with branch A, you could service your account in any of the branches. We are now, so the technology has also evolved into IoT, into AI. Artificial intelligence is where some banks are more advanced than others. So how do we use AI or machine learning? It is to be able to hyper-personalize a customer's experience, being able to predict what the customers want to do, what is their next best product, being able to look at the history of interaction, and when the person next communicates with us, maybe calling into our call center, we understand whether the customer is actually in a state of anger, in a state of being pleased with the bank or average. And so therefore, we could get our agents to behave in an appropriate manner. RPA is actually, to my personal opinion of RPA, is that it is an interim because we started with labor-intensive processes. And to convert all of our systems to be able to take this volume may take time. So to bridge the high labor-intensive processes with the new system that can do everything, that's where we deploy bots that can take up all of this, high volume but low judgment type of processes. Open banking is not yet practiced or implemented in Malaysia, but it is very popular already in countries like the UK. In fact, is well regulated there. And this is to address the problem statement that banks are complacent and not really customer-centric. Are not looking at the best interests of the customers. So what open banking addresses is that there are other players who can actually connect the different banks. So as a customer, I may have my credit product in Bank A, but my deposit product in Bank B, and I want a second credit product from Bank C. But without having to give all of my information to Bank C, I could just instruct, the open banking player to get my data from Bank A and Bank B to go to Bank C. So it is supposed to address the convenience to the customers. Blockchain also differing levels of maturity depending on the country. So this is, where Bitcoin was invented, right? The cryptocurrency that's all leveraging on blockchain. Okay, so that's in terms of banking technology. My point of view is that technology is not in itself the end game. The adoption and the utilization of technology is for a purpose. And the purpose is to create a better customer experience, to delight customers. That's on the customer side. It's also to be able to quickly identify fraud or negligence without having to go into damage control, right? So you are proactive in identifying when a fraud is about to happen. So there's always an outcome to how you deploy and employ technology. It's a means to an end. Okay. The recent trends in banking. So these are, I've mentioned some of this. Some of these are technology, robotic process automation, hyper-personalization. How do you hyper-personalize? What it means is that the bank sees you as you, knows what your interests are, knows what would be the next best product. When you log on into our mobile app, the interface is something that you like because maybe you like animated cartoons more than you like real people photographs, right? So I think bank's aspiration is always to be able to want to serve a customer of one, because today our products and our propositions are addressing the needs of a group of customers or a segment of customers. But it will be very delightful to a customer when the experience that you get is really, really tailored and catered and custom made for you. So hyper-personalization is definitely a trend because of the availability of big data. And how is it that big data is available and can be enabled? Is because of the cloud infrastructure. So because of the advent of cloud, infrastructure for keeping data, for storing data, for capturing data became less expensive because you don't have to set up or procure hardware or software that is only for you. Right, so the cloud infrastructure makes it makes the unit economics more friendly. Okay, sorry, I saw some question. Maybe I'll take it at the end. The trend for banks also is that the digital transformation is being accelerated. Right, all banks, and that's because of the aspiration to serve our customers better, as well as external threats coming from the fintechs. And so the banks want to be seen as being relevant and as being able to employ technology to be relevant and to be able to delight customers. Okay, what are the other trends? Fintech companies, I mentioned about fintech companies. So there has been a proliferation of fintech companies. What are they? What is a fintech company? Fintech companies are typically, not all the time, but they could be startups, but they could also be established. But they take a slice of the financial solution, but they are predominantly driven by technology, right? So the markets that they service are pretty much deep, but not wide. So an example would be we have fintechs that only do acquisition of merchants for credit card payments to happen. That's an example. of a fintech. We could have a company that only does retail payment or e-wallet. That's also an example of a fintech. I'm sure you're using already e-wallet providers. Okay. Focus on user experience. So this is also definitely a trend, future banking trend that we have to chase because of the availability of really delightful user experience and customer experience from other industries, as well as for fintechs. Banks need to now, not saying that banks have not put customer at the center, right? But there could be less focus previously because also of the unavailability of technology. So now, if you look at the mobile apps and internet banking that banks provide, they are so, they can rival also the e-wallet provider. Very, very easy to use, user-friendly, very eye-catching, very attractive. Okay, let's see. Okay, digital banking. So it used to be that for someone to start a bank, to establish a bank, the regulations are very, very tight. You have to have a large amount of capital. You would have to open branches, but because of the availability of technology, cloud, availability of big data, the license for digital banking is now being proliferated. So in Malaysia, Bank Negara has already issued a digital banking framework license and the state of where it is today is that there are already 29 applications of various organizations and various consortia to apply to Bank Negara to set up a digital banking. And last I heard was that Bank Negara will award 5 licenses by Q1 or Q2 next year to the successful applicants. So what are digital banks? Digital banks are banks that exist without any branches. So the only way that they interact with the customers is via the mobile app or via the internet banking app, purely digital. And from what we've seen in Hong Kong, in Korea, where digital banks have already been established and some of them have matured, their business model are excellent because you don't have to walk into a branch anymore to open an account. You can essentially self-serve everything from the mobile app. And so definitely the future of banking is where a bank should be able to avail of all of their services via a mobile app, via a digital channel. Okay, machine learning is a component of AI or is the journey towards AI. So a lot of banks have also started using machine learning and these are employed typically in the area where we are predicting the propensity of the customers to take up the next product or product. We also use it to predict the credit worthiness of a customer. And there could be other uses of machine learning and AI in a bank. Okay, if we can go to the next slide. I'm conscious of time. All right. Maybe the next one, how can banks stay relevant? I think it definitely will depend on whether a bank would be able to address the needs of customers, the growing customers, the customers who are not yet customers. So these are, the children of the future, and be able to predict the needs and anticipate the needs of these customers. The needs of the customers of today will be very different from the needs of the customers of 10 years later. Also, the future of banking, of a bank, is very much in being a value-based intermediary. So it started off as an intermediary to match those who have the funds and those who need the funds. But when we talk about a value-based intermediary, is where a bank is doing good for the community, is investing and is financing businesses, not just for profit, but because the businesses are protecting the environment, because the businesses are doing initiatives, are conducting business that are sustainable. And so that's what a value-based intermediary is. And to go one step further, it's also about increasing the or enhancing the livelihood of everyone. So today, perhaps you would have heard of the term financial inclusion. You have heard the terms of unbanked, underbanked, underserved. There are components of the population and of the community that are not served by banks. They may be able to get a deposit account. Anyone can open a banking account. But in terms of penetration into other financial products, it may be very dismal. A very small component of the population today are actually covered by Takaful. And protection by Takaful is important because you may encounter hardship, right, in your life that would require you to invest or spend your savings, and you don't want your savings to be depleted for this particular incident that is unfortunate, right? So protection is really important. It could be a loss of job, it could be an accident, it could be a temporary disability. So when we talk about financial inclusion, it's not just about having a deposit account. It's about the literacy of using financial products to protect yourself, your livelihood, and your family. But then the other component of it is that once you've gone through multiple rounds of savings, now you want to see whether you can get higher returns on your savings. So this is when you need to be literate in terms of how you invest. You need to understand what kind of returns would unit trust give you? What is a P2P? What is your risk posture? Are you aggressive? Are you average? Are you risk averse? So this being a value-based intermediary for a bank is the ability for the banks to match the needs of the customers and at the same time do good to the community, right? Financing businesses that contribute towards the sustainability of the environment, staying away from financing businesses that do harm or that breach, human rights. So ultimately, apart from the technology evolution and how technology have advanced, my personal opinion, as well as my professional opinion, is that the future of banking really is in value-based intermediation, and technology enables this. Okay, if we can go to the next one. I mentioned about fintech and financial technology, where these are companies who actually Bank Islam works with today. We work together so that there are certain areas where Bank Islam may not do so well, that we rely on the fintechs to provide that depth and excellence of service. An example is we look at fintechs to provide the service of third-party acquisition of merchants. Okay, so this is a comparison, banking before fintech. A e-payment provider, a e-wallet provider, that's a fintech. So prior to them being available in the market, the only way for you to pay is via your debit card, right? Or via your ATM card or via cash. When they came into the picture, look at the advancement and the proliferation of QR code, right? Of discounts, of the ability to use your loyalty points to offset your balance or to pay for your purchases. So that's how fintechs became an external threat. But threat sounds, very negative, but I look at it as positive because fintechs make banks want to do better and make banks want to serve their customers better. All right, next. I think next we go into, Bank Islam. So we are very proactive in ensuring that we serve our customers, not just serve, that we delight our customers, that we stay abreast of technology and be able to identify the technology that would actually that would actually give the right outcome. So we embarked on a transformation that is holistic. So it's not just about digital transformation. It's holistic because it looks at culture. So that's people. It looks at operational excellence, and it looks at digital excellence. Because even if you have the right and the most advanced and the technology at its frontier, but you don't have the people who can see potential of the technology, who are able to operate the technology, and who can innovate because new technology is available, then you would not have reached the outcome. So our transformation program starts with culture, and this is where we really prioritize our people in terms of their way of work, future capabilities, digital upskilling, operational excellence. That's important because, and this is not just applicable to a bank, but applicable to any organizations, that you need to have operational efficiency. There's always continuous improvement. And digital, I think I spoke a lot about the digital and technology prior to this. Next. So just sharing with you that Bank Islam has a 5-year strategy that we formulated in 2020. And it's called LEAP 25. It stands for Leadership Excellence. A is for Accelerate Digital, and P is for Powerhouse. And 25 is the year that we want to achieve it. And this is to propel Bank Islam as the leader in Sharia ESG. Being able to lead the market when it comes to Sharia ESG proposition that is enabled by technology. All right. Okay. Moving on to what we see as the top skills that we and generally the industry needs. Technology is, like I said, an enabler, but we are fully reliant on human capital that can do analytical thinking, that can innovate, that can think out of the box, that can do complex problem solving. So as an employee or an entrepreneur of the future, you are not just actually managing people, you are managing technology. So you have to be well-rounded. And that's how I see the future of work as also evolving. There's no such thing as being a specialist in one area and not knowing about the other areas. I mean, there are markets for that, but being a well-rounded individual with deep skills, but the acumen of other skill sets is important. I give you an example. In a bank, risk management is an important role because banks basically peddle trust, right? We keep your personal data, your name, your IC, your address. We have your transaction data, where you spend, where you save, and we have your balances. Right, so you need to trust a bank, and bank needs to trust for a bank is essentially something that is a given. And risk management is really important here because it deals with making sure that we protect our customer data, we protect our customer balances, and the bank is strong, so that our depositors' rights are always maintained. But it used to be that a risk professional will only know risk deep. But the future of work is that a risk, to be an effective risk practitioner, you also need to have acumen of how to do sales, how to do marketing, because ultimately it's also about targeting the right customers at the right time, and that will help risk perform the risk assessment of the bank. And you see some of this also future skills here: leadership and social influence, technology use, monitoring and control, reasoning, problem solving. I think what is probably not here is also the design, understanding customer behavior and be able to design a customer experience that is convenient and that is relevant to the customers. You can employ technology to do this, but the judgment, the thinking, the interviewing, the understanding, those cannot be done by technology. Those require your own critical thinking and your own judgment. All right, the next slide. Okay, video.
Okay, Mak. Pergi dulu. Assalamualaikum. Hi. What's up, guys? My name is Ahmad Fadullah. I just started working at this company, and guess what? I love my job.
Great job, guys. So let's get to it and do update me the progress in the stand-up tomorrow. Alright, so let's end this call today. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye. It's amazing to know that leaders here had humble beginnings. The journey to success is so inspiring and has definitely made a big impact on the younger generation.
And with a workplace that provides an excellent career path, you just need to be passionate, determined, and confident to get yourself there.
Here, we're so privileged to have the opportunity to learn from all these great leaders. We always get to share opinions, ideas, as well as hands-on experience on the latest fintech and digital trends. As the saying goes, if you want to succeed, you must learn from the best.
Being physically and mentally fit is really important. So I really value a workplace that gives me a healthy work-life balance.
A great team is always a pleasure to work with. In fact, work becomes more fun and rewarding. And to be part of this team is definitely a dream come true.
What? Come, let's go.
So, what are you waiting for? Come and join us.
All right. These are my team members. All right, so that is the end of my presentation. Over to you, Wafi.
All right, thank you very much, Puan Farila, for the insight into life at Bank Islam and about the rest of the information that you shared earlier. So we have received quite a few questions in the chat box, but something that a lot of us would like to know, having worked in many different institutions and different banks as well, how would you describe the Bank Islam working culture?
We've got a target culture that would promote innovation, and that is from the perspective of advancing beyond. So we build values around it. So it's called ta'at. So it's taking charge, advance beyond, acting with integrity, and think customer. So customer centricity is a key component of our culture. And it's not to say that we don't have areas of improvement, but we are very conscious about everything that we do would have to be centered around the customer. So I would say that the culture that we have today is one of openness. That's what we are trying to promote. One that is not so hierarchical, right? Because you don't want boundaries and borders between the top leadership and the working level. It is, we are all very nice people. So I think we actually did a survey for customers. So that is our NPS survey, Net Promoter Score survey, and that measures how customers would advocate Bank Islam. That's number one. And we also did an employee engagement survey, and that's internal in terms of our own employee satisfaction. And what's resounding coming from these two surveys is that we are a bunch of people who are very nice to deal with and to interact with. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Yep, thank you very much. Yeah, I did read quite a bit about Dita at Values. So actually on the topic of employee satisfaction, we'd like to urge everyone to visit Bank Islam's virtual booth here at the Grado Muscat Australia Career Fair and vote for Bank Islam as Malaysia's most preferred employer at the Grado and Brand Awards. All right. So we also have received a number of questions about AI and the emerging technologies. One question was, do you foresee a point in time later on in the future where banks will primarily operate online or virtually, similar to the example earlier provided, the First Direct Bank? Do you foresee a future like that?
Yeah, definitely, but not at the expense of human. So AI will definitely, like I said, it's a critical enabler.
Yeah.
And who makes AI learn? It's humans. So you would require humans to program it, to make it learn, to continuously, to make sure that there are no biases as well. Because one of the main challenges of AI today is that it perpetuates some biases because of how it learns, because AI is all about the machine learning, right? From data sets that we humans give it. And so, yes, it will be a critical component of how service is rendered, but the thinking, the brain, how it learns, how it removes biases will all come from us. Will all come from humans.
What are some other characteristics of humans that you think can never be replaced? Rather evergreen characteristics?
Judgment, the ability to exact judgment that may not necessarily be data-centric. Instinct, I don't actually dismiss instinct. Sometimes, instinct, especially when you've had a lot of experience, instinct is also valuable. Understanding behaviors of the customers, being able to choose and select. And so that is something that AI can ultimately do, but again, we are the ones who let the AI learn by looking at data sets, by choosing the right data sets.
Yeah. So to answer the question earlier from Jiaqian, no, humans will not be replaced in the banking industry. Robots are not going to be taking over. In fact, we're going to be the ones that will be controlling them. So a question here from Lashvini. Her question is, do you remember a specific experience of where you wished that the banking industry had done something differently?
Definitely, it was during the subprime crisis. Where
around what year was this?
Subprime crisis was 1998. Okay, so that was the most recent crisis prior to the pandemic. Yeah. Where it started in the United States, right? Whereby there was a lot of financial engineering that happened, where essentially you layer financial products upon financial products and basically lose focus about what is that underlying asset. And that gave rise to basically the downfall of the mortgage. And it basically, two banks in the United States collapsed because of it. Of course, there were a lot of improvements that happened after that in terms of regulation, in terms of separating between the investment bank and the consumer bank, because what had happened in the United States and across the world, because it wasn't just isolated to the Americas, was that people lose their pension. People lose their deposit, because when banks fall, customers fall too. So even though there were a lot of learnings from there and we became stronger because of that experience, the damage could definitely have been lessened, right? And what the banking industry should have done was to challenge the need for profits at all costs. And so that's why I mentioned as a key future of banking is value-based intermediation, because it's not just about profit making at the expense of everything else. So when we were hit with that crisis, it was at the expense of people's livelihood. People lose their savings, people lose their pension. But right now, we are also financing industries and doing things that may be at the expense of the earth, of the environment, right? So we've had so many lessons, even from the 1800s, and definitely sustainability and doing good, because banks have that power. Banks provide liquidity. So the responsibility on banks is huge, is in providing that liquidity and funding to businesses that will move the dial in terms of growth, in terms of output, in terms of people's livelihood, in terms of protection of the environment.
Right, yep. Thank you for that point, Farila. And Diana is asking, how do banks respond to the increasing competition from fintech companies? But rather, do you see fintech companies as competition at all?
In certain areas, yes, definitely indirect competition. However, my opinion and my bank's opinion is that they push us to step up, right? So
Right.
any competition is good for the customers, because I am a customer too.
Right,
I'm not just an employee of a bank. I am a customer too. I'm a customer of a bank, of the bank. And so the fact that they are pushing the banks to innovate faster, to create better customer experience would actually be good for the industry. And how do we respond to them? Number one is keep them close. So rather than try to eliminate them, let's see whether they can fill a gap that we have, and whether together we can create a bigger pie, because it's all about getting customers. That's number one. And number two is we are also stepping up on our digitalization and then our customer experience initiatives. So that's how we continue to step up, so that we continue to become relevant.
Right, of course. So you believe that fintech companies, they kind of spur you guys on to become, a better...
Sure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because if it's not fintech companies, it'll be other things.
Other things, right? Of course. There's always going to be competition. It's just how you, the matter of how you respond to it. Another question, actually, I assume in the same circle as the competition, is asking, how are banks adapting to the increased popularity and usage of cryptocurrency? And will this form of payment be made mainstream in the future?
So, the jury is still out there. There are several countries, right, who have definitely advanced a lot more. And it's already become an instrument in the capital market. We in Malaysia, however, is still, I think we're still exploring. We are still finding what would be the right approach, because when it comes to cryptocurrency, we've got Bank Negara as the central bank. We also have SC as the regulator for the capital markets. I don't actually have an answer, because I'm also still looking at it as being unfolding. Cryptocurrency is one, then there's also the central bank digital currency that are being experimented by many central banks in the world. It is definitely something that we need to get our heads around. But there's still a lot more that need to be unfolded.
Do you think that this new form of payment will, in a way, benefit the economy or the society in general, or it's still you don't have a conclusion to that yet?
It depends. I mean, what is the purpose? Is it a medium of transaction? Is it replacing the fiat currency, or does it have an intrinsic value? Is it an investment instrument? Right? If it is an investment instrument, what is the underlying? I mean, customers, people need to know, right? What is it? What brings the price up and down? And we also have to look at, Bank Islam. I mean, obviously we are Sharia compliant, so there are also prohibitions in certain practices. So we have to look at it in totality. Whether it will benefit, I think that anything that is digital that would have traceability would benefit the industry. Then you can really, really cut, any of money laundering, counter-terrorism, anything with electronic footprints, right? But whether it will enhance the livelihood of people, I think, I don't have an answer to that just yet.
Understood. Yeah. So it seems that there's definitely a lot more than meets the eye when it comes to adapting these sorts of technology. A lot goes into it before it can be made mainstream. Thank you very much for that answer.
Trade facilitation, especially cross-border, right? Because then now you don't have the need for any currency conversion. That would definitely benefit trade.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that before. But on the topic of financial security, a question here from Muhammad Farhan. He says the banking technology has become more digitally centered and AI centered. Does the overall security of these technologies have become more complex and more susceptible to security breaches?
Definitely. So actually, one of the future skill set is definitely in terms of cybersecurity. It has become more complex. The ammo for fraud, for doing bad things, have also become complicated. And then you go back to using technology to be able to predict the trends, right? So it's like the answer to it is also technology. But yes, sometimes there's a catch up that needs to happen. So in any bank, the security aspect, the security team is very important. And it's very important that you are probably studying technology, computer science, cybersecurity today, employ your skill set to the good side of technology, not the dark side. But I do agree, the proliferation, adoption of technology also comes with threats, also comes with security consequences. And we need to be proactive to it. And so therefore we need the brains to be able to really look at where the vulnerabilities are. Because ultimately you want to protect your customers' information as well.
Of course. Yep. And with a company like Bank Islam that's very customer centric, I'm sure security is on the top of the bank's agenda. So we're actually coming to the end of our session today. Would just like to invite you to leave a few words for our audience, words of encouragement to a lot of the aspiring, chief strategy officers like yourself?
Thank you. I think where you are right now, I'm assuming that you are about to graduate or in your undergraduate courses, is that this is the time to really experiment and learn. And don't say no to any new opportunities, even though they may be outside of your comfort zone. So for your internship, it may not be your first choice in terms of the company, but just take it, because anything that you do is an opportunity, a platform to learn, and learning is lifelong. There are always areas you think you've known this, but actually there's still a lot to learn. That's it.
Thank you very much, Puan Farila. A very, very insightful session. I myself learned quite a bit about, especially cryptocurrency and the different aspects that go into it and how complicated it really is. So thank you, guys. Thank you to the audience for tuning in. Thank you to Puan Farila for, sharing your insights. Do visit Bank Islam's virtual booth here at the Australia Career Fair to explore their diverse career opportunities. And don't forget to vote for them as Malaysia's most preferred employer at the Graduate Brand Awards. So stay tuned, for we have one last